All right, Elvis photo fans, I brought you down to the beach for the last day to do a little reading of Child Bride. We left off at a kind of a cliffhanger. And of course, if you haven't watched the new video I posted about the accused abuse of Lisa from Michael Edwards and Priscilla, watch it. You probably have watched it already. It's definitely been my really most watched video lately, and of course, there's a reason why. And here we are reading about Priscilla at 14. So I'm going to back it up maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs from where we stopped last time. And then I'm going to read the details. So you're going to want to stick around. If there's a couple commercials here and there, just wait from the end, or sometimes they let you skip them. And you'll get a chance to hear the full story according to people that are not named Priscilla. And Priscilla's reputation has taken a huge hit with this Lisa Marie Presley book. And I will continue reading. In fact, there'll be another video probably tonight that I'll put out about Lisa and Michael Edwards and Priscilla. All right, so Elvis left Priscilla's side just long enough to bound into the kitchen, recalled Elizabeth Stefaniak, urging the rest of them to peek at her through the door. She looks just like a beautiful little angel, doesn't she? He exclaimed. Less than 10 minutes later, when Carol and Curry returned to the living room, he had Priscilla backed up against the wall, recalled Curry kissing her. By 8:30 or so, Elvis was taking her upstairs to his bedroom. Priscilla would later claim publicly that she and Elvis were downstairs all evening talking, but others who were in the house remembered them disappearing to Elvis's upstairs room. Priscilla later admitted this to Mike Edwards. He just took her by the hand, went upstairs, and said, "We'll be down later," Curry recalled. And she just went right in with him. That's when I began to worry, because I know Elvis. There were many times when he'd taken girls up there, and he got no idea of timing. I had to get this girl back by midnight. Thus, Priscilla Bayou, who had just a few months earlier completed junior high at Del Valle, Texas, daydreaming of Elvis Presley, found herself in the bedroom in Germany their first evening together. The unlikelihood of this scenario captured perfectly the circumstances, for theirs was a match based entirely in unreality. He was literally her fantasy come true, the successor to Mario Lanza, and Priscilla's childish fantasy, Elvis Presley. Every teenage girl's paradise found, and she was his dream girl, the perfect child woman Elvis had created in his mind. He told Rex Mansfield the next day that he'd been looking for someone like that all of his life. Priscilla, he explained to Rex, had the physical look he was attracted to, and she was young enough for him to raise up to suit herself. Mike characterized it as a fantasy world, not a man and a woman dying with love for each other. On a deeper level, Elvis and Priscilla's union could only be construed as karmic. She represented the mother that he had just lost. He was the dead father that she had just found. A beautiful black-haired soldier who could remove her from reality, who would be her guardian angel and protector. Priscilla's resemblance to Deborah Paget linked her with Elvis's mother in his mind, for, as Joe Esposito would recall, Elvis considered Deborah's face strongly similar to that of Gladys Presley. Of course, the person Priscilla Bayou would really resembled was Elvis himself. They were mirror images of each other. This may have been more like a mystical attraction, for Elvis still grieved over the death of his stillborn twin, Jesse Guerin, and felt that he was missing the other half. He and his mother, recalled Gladys' best friend Willie Jane Nichols, would have conversations with Jesse in a special language. After Gladys Presley's death, Elvis became preoccupied with the lookalikes. On a subconscious level, finding Priscilla may have symbolized a reunion with his dead twin. There were clearly psychological and emotional undercurrents to the attraction within Elvis, for he felt instantly intimate with Priscilla in a manner that even surprised her. He was very lonely over there, she said in the 70s, and he wanted to talk to someone, and he trusted me. For some reason, he trusted me. He poured his heart out. I look now and I go, oh my gosh, I was so young. I was only 14. How did that trust develop? I mean, how and why did he? But he did. I'll tell you why he did, because Curry Grant told her exactly the kind of woman that Elvis wanted to have around her. Quiet, listening, demure, cutesy, all that stuff. And had her hair done up like Deborah Paget. So he had the girl that he really desired to have, that he actually asked Deborah's parents to marry, and they said no. And now, less than a year and a half, 2 years later, he finds somebody he thinks is just like her. So, for Elvis, something deeper, more profound was occurring. He spent much of their time in the bedroom talking to Priscilla, mostly about his career, and her natural inclination to shyness, the intimidating circumstances, and the advice she had gotten from Curry played into Elvis's needs beautifully, for Priscilla had been conditioned to listen raptly to every word. For all of her poise and apparent maturity, the experience had to have been mind-bending for Priscilla Beaulieu. The previous October, she had been the only 8th grader to attend the high school homecoming dance, to which she was escorted by a sophomore who barely tried to kiss her. Apart from her secret dalliances with Curry and her liaisons with forbidden boys the year before, she had never been even on an official car date. Now at 14, she was being pursued by the most famous sex symbol in the world. Curry Grant would question her a few days later about what she and Elvis did that night up in his room. Priscilla told Curry was sweet and tender. They lay on the bed together while Elvis kissed her very gently and then became more sexual. Now, you're going to want to make sure you stick around for this next part. And then, of course, we can talk about it a little bit as well. Beautiful beach. All right, let's get on to it. I know you're waiting. So, Curry said that Priscilla said this to him. He just played with her. He was doing the hand thing. He was filling her up, so to speak. He went under with his hand, very slowly, rubbing the skin, rubbing across her chest, stuff like that. Telling her to relax, and he wasn't going to hurt her, talking to her like she was a kid, which of course she was. No one present at the house that night said a word about Priscilla Beaulieu being 14 years old, either before or after Elvis disappeared with her into his bedroom. It was not even discussed, Rex Mansfield confirmed, because she was there with her parents' approval. Such was the power of Elvis Presley. It was just a whole different world, Rex said. The world he was in. Conventional rules were not enforced, and no one questioned the propriety. To me, to be honest, she looked like a little girl, Rex confessed years afterwards. A little young girl. I'm not sure even how I found out that she was 14. Maybe it was mentioned later. The only one who exercised concern that night was Curry, who expected to face the wrath of Priscilla's father, an Air Force captain and his superior, if he brought her home past her midnight curfew. At 11:30, I started pacing the floor. Lamar Fike, who was sitting nearby, merely laughed. "You might as well sit down," he said lazily. "You know, once he gets up there, he forgets all time." "So I paced the floor for another hour and a half," declared Curry. "They came down a few minutes after 1 o'clock. See, Priscilla didn't even care, did she? She knew she had to be home by 12. That's not somebody that's a shy girl. I mean, that's just not somebody that's not used to getting their own way and not get in trouble and probably have the full permission to stay as late as she wanted. I mean, that's pretty crazy. We're talking 1 o'clock in the morning. And anyways, I get it. You know, she was young. And I suppose definitely when you're young, you push the envelope. A little more beach here. You see beautiful beach. All right, it's back to the book now. Okay? So we're going to find out what's going to happen when Priscilla gets home. Is she going to get in trouble big time? Big time? Or was the mother going to be very happy? Let's find out. All right, so Priscilla and Elvis were holding hands, and Elvis was still reluctant to let her go despite Curry's urgency. He walked her out the front door, and Curry remembered, which he rarely did for anybody. He was still holding her fingers when we got to the steps outside, and when he let go of her hand, he said, "Bring her back, Curry." Curry hurried Priscilla to the car with Carol, clearly agitated, barely looking back. "I'll try," he responded. Now, once inside the car, Priscilla seemed to be in a mild state of shock. Curry recalled. She questioned the Grants endlessly. "Do you think he likes me? Do you think he likes me?" All the way back, Curry said later, she was very unsure of herself. Stepping into his mentor role, he calmed Priscilla down, saying he wouldn't have taken you upstairs if he didn't like you, Priscilla. The performance had ended. Now she started acting like a 14-year-old schoolgirl after her first date, noted Curry, which in effect she was. What Priscilla did not know was that Elvis Presley was in a trance over her, talking about her to Charlie Hodge, just as he had to Rex Mansfield. He called me over and said, "Charlie, did you see the structure of her face? The bone structure, it's almost like everything I ever looked for in a woman." The first meeting had gone beyond Priscilla's wildest games of Imagine If. She had spent 4 hours alone with Elvis Presley in his bedroom. Though she was breathlessly agog at the fantasy she was living, there were hints of ambivalence on Priscilla's part that first night. She was bothered, she would say many years later, by Elvis's constant teasing when he said, "Oh, you're just a little baby." Stuff like that. She didn't like that. "I didn't know if I liked him or not. It was this energy that was there that I'd never felt." Well, I'll tell you who did like him was Priscilla's mom. And of course, they liked the idea that maybe they would be famous and associated with somebody famous. So let's go ahead and continue here. The Grants did not get Priscilla home until 2 o'clock in the morning. Despite Curry's grave apprehensions, there were no repercussions from the Beaulieus. "I got kind of a funny look from the old man," So I talked 90 miles an hour. Elvis was real tired. He was really happy to meet her. I kept it rolling, but Paul hardly said anything at all. He said, "It is a little late." That's about as grumpy as he got. Within 5 minutes, I was out of there with Carol. Now, Curry seemed more concerned about the late hour than Anne Beaulieu did. Far from being disturbed by her 14-year-old daughter's midnight date with Elvis Presley, Priscilla's mother was thrilled. Her cousin Margaret later recalled, "She wrote me from Germany and said, 'Guess who Priscilla met?' Elvis Presley." She was all excited, saying that Priscilla had met Elvis Presley, and it was a big deal. Anne seemed unfazed by the difference in Elvis and Priscilla's ages or by the monumental chasm between them in life experiences. Priscilla Beaulieu may have looked and played older than her 14 years, but as Martha Smith, her 8th grade English teacher from Texas, said of her, "She was just a little girl to me. Back then, little girls were little girls." Priscilla told Curry that the next time they spoke, that she lay in bed wide awake after he dropped her off. She couldn't even sleep. She was so excited. "There are 2 tragedies in life," George Bernard Shaw wrote. "One is to lose your heart's desire, and the other is to gain it." Priscilla Beaulieu was too young, at 14, to appreciate the irony of thanking God for unanswered prayers. So that's where I'd left off about the last part. So that's a big difference in story between what Priscilla had told and what she had told Curry. Intimate details of what happened that first night. Now, they didn't go all the way. It's not like, but still, obviously, we know the age difference, and we know how it is with society nowadays, and perhaps even back then. So I want to know your thoughts on it, of course. And, with all this new information that we have from Lisa's memoir, which I'll be reading more of tonight, perhaps Priscilla didn't really care so much. Maybe she thought it was fine. I can't imagine she would have thought it was fine, because this happened to Lisa when she was 10 or 11 and 12 and 13. I mean, we're not talking, not that 14 is a world away from 13, but it's a world away from 10, 11, 12, and really 13 if you think about it. So, why did Priscilla allow Lisa to be abused and stay with the man that was abusing her, and even leave her alone? But somebody had mentioned something somewhere where Priscilla's grandmother married super young, had a child very, very young. So did Priscilla's mom. Now, Priscilla didn't have a baby until she was 22, I think it was. And yeah, that's still young, but it's not 16, 15, or 14. But anyways, let me know what you think about this. And I know I should probably have my shoes off at the beach, but I'm reading a book. So I guess I'll take them off and dig them in the sand. TCB TLC. Till next time, this is Rare Elvis Photos.